In the headlines of this hour on VTV News, Vietnam and Italy cooperate to promote agriculture sector. And later on, decentralization enhanced in public investment. And in our world news, China home prices likely to fall this year.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is currently 8 a.m. local time and you're tuning in to 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Nguyen with the latest updates. Now, in honor of the 65th National Traditional Day of the Border Guard and the 35th All-People Border Defense Day anniversary, State President Võ Văn Thưởng awarded the Border Guard Command the second-class Victory Medal for their achievements in crime prevention. Over the past 65 years, the Border Guard Command has been the backbone of the country's revolutionary armed force, protecting territorial sovereignty and national border security. Therefore, the state president called on the border forces and localities to bolster their solidarity and contribute to building a robust all-people border defense posture and a widespread border protection force. He also highlighted the importance of defense diplomacy, promoting twinning between border management and protection forces, and maintaining resoluteness, persistence, and cleverness in resolving territorial sovereignty issues. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính and his spouse will attend the ASEAN-Australia Special Summit to commemorate the 50th anniversary of ASEAN-Australia dialogue relations and pay official visits to Australia and New Zealand from March the 5th to the 11th. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has announced. The Prime Minister's attendance at the summit and visits will be made at the invitation of Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Prime Minister of New Zealand Christopher Luxon. Also on Friday afternoon, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính received Italy's Minister of Agriculture, Food Sovereignty and Forestry, Franchesco Lolo in Hanoi. At the reception, the Prime Minister affirmed that Vietnam always values the Vietnam-Italy strategic partnership and highly appreciates the two countries' ministries of agriculture signing the Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation. The Prime Minister suggested that the two sides focus on cooperation in the deep processing of agricultural products, high technology transfer, high-quality human resources training, innovation promotion, digital transformation, and green economy. The Prime Minister affirmed that Vietnam is ready to create conditions for Italian agricultural products to enter Vietnam and suggested that Italy push the EU to ratify the Vietnam-EU Investment Protection Agreement soon and urged the European Commission to remove the yellow card imposed on Vietnamese seafood. National Assembly Chairman Vương Đình Huệ on Friday afternoon attended a groundbreaking ceremony for a road from National Highway 27C to Provincial Road CD656 in the South Central Province of Khánh Hòa. The new road will connect Lâm Đồng and Ninh Thuận provinces. More to follow.
The transportation project running through the Khánh Vĩnh and Khánh Sơn districts is recognized as a crucial national initiative. It spans 56.7 kilometers, is 9 meters wide, and features 2 lanes. National Assembly Chair Vương Đình Huệ initiated the project's construction with a total funding of $78.2 million from the state and local budgets. This project aims to support the development objectives of Khánh Hòa province as outlined in Resolution 9 by Politburo, setting the direction for the province's growth until 2030 and vision towards 2045. On his business trip, National Assembly Chair Vương Đình Huệ successfully rallied donors to contribute nearly $649,000 to construct 200 solidarity houses. These homes are intended for poor and near-poor families and ethnic groups in Khánh Sơn and Khánh Vĩnh districts. Earlier, the National Assembly chair and the working group visited and reviewed the operations of the Navy's 189th Submarine Brigade. He observed the brigade's training and combat preparedness during his visit, commending their accomplishments and offering gifts to the officers and soldiers. Also at Hnhin Tower, the National Assembly chair and his delegation laid flowers and offered incense in tribute to President Ho Chi Minh and the heroic martyrs who laid down their lives for the national independence and freedom.
Vietnamese Minister of Foreign Affairs Bùi Thanh Sơn and Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Minister for Defence Mikel agreed to boost future ties between the two nations during talks held on February the 29th in Ireland as part of the Vietnamese diplomat's official visit to the European nation. At the meeting, the Irish Deputy Prime Minister pledged that his nation would consider Vietnamese suggestions about accelerating the EU-Vietnam Investment Protection Agreement EVIPA ratification. Ireland will also propose the European Commission, or EC, to speedily remove the yellow card warning placed on Vietnamese seafood, he said, asking Vietnam to facilitate the import of high-quality farm produce and food from Ireland. The ministers also agreed on measures to ramp up cooperation in education, training, labor, tourism, and people-to-people exchanges, as well as exchanging views on cooperation opportunities in new potential spheres such as renewable energy, the digital economy, and climate change. Developing integrated infrastructure to transform Vietnam into an industrial nation is a key goal outlined in Resolution Number 13, issued by the 11th Party Central Committee on January 16, 2012. More than a decade later, numerous projects have been completed. To further this agenda, the Politburo released Conclusion Number 72 on February the 23rd, aimed at enhancing investment efforts linked with regional connectivity.
For the first time, the government chose Nguyen to manage two big projects. These projects are a belt road around 5 areas of Hanoi, crossing Nguyen province, and a road linking Nguyen, Bac Giang, and Vinh Phuc provinces, stretching over 42 kilometers. Despite the project's size and complexity, the local authorities have confidently promised to finish them early.
When local areas are given control, clearing sites becomes easier, particularly in gathering feedback and conducting evaluations and appraisals, offering distinct benefits. Decentralizing investors to local areas is now practical, and management boards have met legal standards for implementation.
This year, of over $26.6 billion allocated for public investment across the country, 2/3 is dedicated to transportation infrastructure. This reflects the government's strong commitment to quickly developing transportation infrastructure, in line with Resolution No. 13 from the 11th Party Central Committee.
We have stated that financial issues will be resolved wherever the road is built. Now, wherever traffic infrastructure is developed, numerous advantages will emerge.
By the end of February, the disbursement of public investment funds exceeded $2.4 billion, achieving over 9% of the target set by the Prime Minister. For ministries, central agencies, and 38 local areas have reported disbursement rates higher than the national average. However, 32 ministries and central agencies have yet to disburse funds, and 6 local areas have a disbursement rate of less than 5%.
Alongside public investment, the influx of foreign direct investment, or FDI, has also played a significant role in driving growth, signaling encouraging trends. Unlike the sharp decline in registered FDI in Vietnam seen at this point in 2023, the first 2 months of this year witnessed nearly $4.3 billion flowing into the country, or a 38.6% increase. Remarkably, the FDI realized in these 2 months is estimated at $2.8 billion, the highest for this period over the last 5 years.
This South Korean investor is finishing their 3rd factory in Thanh Hoa province with an investment of $10 million. This will be their quickest project to launch, doubling the production of wiring harnesses for new South Korean car models coming mid-year.
We quickly selected a cleared site with well-coordinated transportation links from new highways to airports and seaports. Local and provincial governments have helped us accelerate investment procedures and land leasing.
There are currently 156 FDI investment projects with a total registered investment capital of more than $14.6 billion in Thanh Hoa province. Disbursed FDI capital increased sharply, primarily in major industrial hubs, aligning with integrated and well-connected infrastructure quality.
Enabling us to meet the growing demand for our products, Thanh Hoa province continues to offer policies and solutions to aid investors, focusing on expanding industrial land availability, infrastructure support, and assistance up to the project's boundaries. These measures also attract other companies within their production chain.
In the first 2 months of this year, the number of projects receiving new investment registration certificates nationwide rose by over 55% in volume and more than doubled in value compared to the same period last year. Local authorities actively assist investors in turning these promising results into reality quickly.
Remains a strong destination for foreign direct investment. This year also there's been a significant increase in Vietnam's ability to draw FDI. So going forward, I think the key thing that the government needs to focus on is to maintain its competitive advantage vis-a-vis its neighbors in terms of attracting FDI.
The global economy continues to be threatened by geopolitical instability, supply chain disruptions, and intensified competition for orders, making the competition for FDI increasingly fierce. By facilitating conditions that enable foreign investors to expedite capital disbursement, Vietnam can seize the opportunity to remain an appealing destination for FDI.
Coming up next on VTV News. Measures to strengthen ties in CLV development triangle. And later on, Japanese men with profound love for Vietnamese cuisine. Welcome back to VTV News Live. Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam should outline breakthrough measures for infrastructure and human resources development, as well as institutional reform to carry out and build cooperation plans for the Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, or CLV development triangle area, Minister of Planning and Investment Nguyen said on March 1st. At the meeting, the ministers reaffirmed their resolve to bolster cooperation in foreign affairs and security through the existing CLV cooperation mechanisms and other bilateral cooperation framework to ensure peace, stability, cooperation, sustainable development, and prosperity. Furthermore, they agreed to collaborate in climate change response, biodiversity protection, and green and circular economy development, among others, to contribute to sustainable and comprehensive development in the three countries. The ASEAN Vocational Training Course launched in Ho Chi Minh City on Friday. 18 lecturers and trainees from 5 countries, Laos, Cambodia, Brunei, Myanmar, and the Philippines, will participate in the 6-month training course developed by Ho Chi Minh City Construction College lecturers. According to the representative of the Vietnam Ministry of Labor, Invalids and Social Affairs, the ASEAN Council and the Ministry of Employment and Labor of South Korea, choosing Vietnam as a construction training destination is an opportunity to improve the quality of skills. Thus, job opportunities and salary payments for exported workers will increase in ASEAN and other countries and continents. The Mekong Delta is currently at the peak of its dry season. The upstream flow of the Mekong River is lower than the annual average, which is expected to intensify saltwater intrusion next weekend. Over the next 10 days, a salinity depth of 4 grams per liter could extend 50 to 60 kilometers from the Vam Co Dong to the Vam Co Tây River estuaries. Similarly, salinity depth could cover 40 to 50 kilometers of river, such as the Cửa Tiểu, Cửa Đại, Hàm Luông, Cổ Chiên, and Hậu rivers. For the Cái Lớn River, it could be 37 to 45 kilometers. This year's saltwater intrusion in the Mekong Delta is expected to exceed the average of many years, but won't match the severe intrusion seen in 2016 and 2020, particularly during the high tides from March 7th to the 13th and March the 24th to the 28th. During the peak of Vietnam's dry season, precautions against salinity intrusions are intensified as water levels in lakes, dikes, and rivers decrease. Concerns have arisen about unexpected intrusions in places other than the Mekong Delta. That is a direct result of low rainfall and prolonged dry weather, thus requiring immediate countermeasures from local authorities. Our report from Thanh Hóa Province.
Saline intrusion has negatively impacted 100 hectares of rice in Nga Phu Commune, Nga Sơn district. Despite stable irrigation, the crops have yielded less due to unusually high levels of dissolved salt in the water.
Since the soil has previously been contaminated with salinity, virtually no amount of water is efficient for irrigation each year. The acidity of the soil will take a toll on the crop's health.
A rough estimate indicates that around 15,000 hectares of crops could be affected by a water shortage. In response, the Nga Sơn district authorities have built temporary dams and are advocating for the efficient use of irrigation water. Management has been consistently taking salinity measurements and conducting further monitoring since the start of spring. Once the salt content drops below 1 part per thousand, the convert gates will be opened and the pumping station will be activated to retrieve water.
With the intrusion still ongoing, we must continue pumping so that farmers have water for their rice crops.
We have also inspected the working conditions of our machinery and performed maintenance work. We have dredged drainage canals and inland channels to increase water storage capacity.
Thanh Hóa Province has proposed accelerating the progress of irrigation projects on the Lan and Can rivers. These projects aim to enhance salinity control and preserve the natural environment. However, their implementation is currently behind schedule, causing inconvenience for the local community.
Water-based passenger transportation services such as boats, canoes, water motorbikes, water bicycles, and many other types will be permitted to operate on West Lake according to a new regulation. This regulation was recently issued by the Hanoi People's Committee as part of their management strategy for Westlake. The city also mandates that all organizations and individuals involved in production, business, and service activities implement measures to mitigate dust, emissions, and noise pollution. All parties must comply with environmental standards and strive to minimize greenhouse gas emissions. Theo District is primarily responsible for managing Westlake as outlined in the regulation. Chang An Scenic Landscape Complex celebrates its 10 years as a UNESCO World Cultural and Natural Heritage Site. The Director General hailed Chang An as a successful example of the balance between development and heritage preservation. A conference aiming to create new tourism products and promote heritage values and sustainability was organized in Ninh on Friday.
Researchers and tourism experts highlight the potential of the Chang An Heritage Site, including its natural landscapes and historical and cultural significance. The conference identified its advantages and challenges, thereby suggesting solutions for the province to develop heritage tourism further.
It is necessary to introduce the information of the scenic landscape complex to the visitors in a way that they will remember. We will continue to implement projects on preserving tangible and intangible heritage. From that, we will build specific tourism products.
Ninh established numerous tourism products in the decade following its recognition as a World Cultural and Natural Heritage Site. From tourists, there are now 4 designated trails to visit the relics and caves. It also prevents overcrowding as recommended by the UNESCO. Recently, VTVgo Island has been restored to present the life of prehistoric humans in Chang'an caves 25 to 30,000 years ago. This recreation has helped raise visitors' understanding of human adaptation to nature.
To deeply understand the ancient complex, ethnic tourism plays an important role in addition to its landscape and spiritual tourism.
In the first 2 months of this year, the province welcomed 2.7 million visitors to the complex, a threefold increase over the same period last year. Ninh is determined to promote heritage tourism at its spearhead, ensuring a balance between conservation and development.
The ASEAN Week 2024 launch ceremony and parade recently took place in Phu Quoc City, Gyeongsang Province. Over 200 city officials and workers prepared early for the event, all dressed in vibrant traditional ASEAN. Following the launch ceremony, they paraded through Bạch Đằng Park and the city's main roads. The group also visited the Memorial Temple to honor heroic martyrs. In adherence to ASEAN Week, officials and employees will continue wearing the traditional outfit to work from March 1st to March the 8th. This initiative aims to honor the traditional outfit and stimulate a sense of responsibility to preserve and promote Vietnamese cultural heritage. Additionally, it celebrates the 114th International Women's Day anniversary on March 8th and the 1984th anniversary of the Chung Sisters' Rebellion. One business has been ranked among the 10 high-growth companies in the Asia-Pacific in 2023 by Nikkei Asia and Financial Times. It has led to the fastest growth in the food and beverage category. What is special about this company is its focus on Vietnamese delicacies. More interestingly, this idea came from a Japanese person.
Mori Kazuki is a businessman working in investment consulting. After getting married, Mori moved in a new direction, making Vietnamese food. His spouse has ignited in him a love for Vietnamese cuisine.
This factory follows Japanese production standards. This machine is like an X-ray that can detect objects. Anything that does not meet the standards will be removed.
As a result, Mori and his wife have returned to Vietnam several times to learn about traditional dishes. They opted to produce steamed pork sausage from the many dishes they considered.
We failed a lot because Vietnamese sausages are difficult to produce. Japan has very strict standards for food hygiene and safety, such as allergies and doneness of meat.
I even opened a restaurant to introduce dishes made from steamed pork sausages. I am proud that our products are available in over 2,000 Japanese supermarkets.
Produces about 1 ton of steamed pork sausages daily. Mori and his wife are trying to bring this dish to more Japanese dining tables.
I even opened a restaurant to introduce dishes made from steamed pork sausages. I am proud that our products are available in over 2,000 Japanese supermarkets.
My son and I like to eat sandwiches with steamed pork sausages. I also buy spring rolls for my family to eat with bento rice or spaghetti.
Mori and his wife promote Vietnamese cuisine in Japan and connect the Vietnamese community overseas.
Coming up next in our world news. China home prices is likely to fall this year. And later on, the UN warns harmful waste generation to jump. Now moving on to our world news. Property sales in mainland China declined for the 10th straight month in February. The market is predicted to face difficulties this year. Experts believe the decline stems mainly from people's weak confidence in the real estate market, lower demand, and declining population numbers. A Reuters poll conducted in February showed new home prices would decline 0.9% this year versus 1.1% growth tipped in a previous poll in November. Prices will likely grow 0.5% next year versus the 1% forecast in November. The poll also predicts property sales will likely shrink 5% this year. Authorities have deployed policies to revive the sector, including the biggest ever reduction in the benchmark mortgage rate in February. However, analysts have seen limited impact. Several new national projects will be launched to improve the quality of life for average Russian citizens. Russian President Vladimir Putin made this statement on Friday in his annual State of the Nation address to the Federal Assembly, the Russian parliament. In particular, Russian President Putin announced 5 new additional projects entitled Family, Human Resources, Russia's Youth, Long and Active Living, and Data Economy. These projects will receive hundreds of billions of rubles, outlining the country's development plan until 2030. In addition, at least 700 billion rubles, or $7.6 billion, will be allocated to the National Data Economy project. These steps aim to target non-resource, non-energy exports of the Russian Federation within 6 years. Russia must reduce the import proportion to 17% of GDP by 2030. After approval, the Russian government plans to allocate over $22 billion for these national projects. Waste produced by the public will surge by 2050, according to the latest report by the United Nations Environment Programme, or UNEP, on Wednesday. This volume of waste will cause hundreds of billions of dollars of damage through biodiversity loss, climate change, and deadly pollution. More to follow.
According to the report, global waste generation will soar unless urgent measures are taken. This surge is driven largely by fast-growing economies, including Asia and sub-Saharan Africa.
Waste data from 2020 to 2050, what we can see is that the waste being produced in fast-growing economies, a lot of that waste isn't being controlled at all, which means that it's being openly dumped or burned, resulting in significant pollution. And when we look ahead to 2050, we can see that these areas, because they have fast population growth and fast economic growth, they're going to be generating much, much more waste.
These countries are already struggling to manage current production levels. According to UNEP, waste management alone would not solve the issue. The world should focus on curbing single-use plastics and production.
The solution, therefore, isn't waste management alone, although I will insist that it is a very important dimension on a continent such as Africa that largely does not have waste management, solid waste management infrastructure. But the world needs to eliminate single-use plastic.
The UNEP projected the cost to be $640 billion annually by the middle of the century, representing a more than 75% increase compared to 2020.
And now let's have a look at the weather forecast. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website or YouTube channel, or download a mobile app VTVgo for more. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.